Alright everyone, the other day, of course, Nick Fuentes was on the no-fly list, and now we have more political persecution, even arguably more brazen than that, which is that the feds raided Giuliani's office and home, and I'm thinking, pertinent to what specific ongoing investigation would that be? Well, it's not pertinent to anything realistic. It's political persecution is what it is. What's happened is that Biden has brought back the battle days. It's funny because Trump was supposedly a fascist, but we didn't really have this happening. But it happened under Obama. You see, Biden learned from the best. Do you remember Lois Lerner? This smacks a lot of the same kind of internal scandals and misuse of federal power that we saw in the 2010s. Lois Lerner, of course, head of the IRS at the time. The IRS was targeting conservative groups, nonprofits and shit to try to screw them with audits. It did the same thing, by the way, to progressive groups. That certainly didn't get talked about as much because, of course, it was hush-hush by most of the legacy media, so that the only ones that ever mentioned it or would mention it would be Fox, and they don't care about progressive groups, so they didn't. What about Michael Hastings? You remember him? Bet you never heard his name. I still remember the whole fucking goddamn thing. Was an early 4chan user. Michael Hastings was an investigative journalist. He was investigating the head of the FBI, actually, at the time. Not a great thing to do if you want longevity. And he got assassinated. I'm just going to come out and say that's what happened because it's quite obvious that it was. He investigated the wrong people. He apparently was worried he was being followed and was deviating his normal actions because of this. Contacted WikiLeaks people, their lawyers and shit like that right before he died, then inexplicably gets a brand new sports car, fires it down the road at 100 miles an hour and slams into a power pole, launching the engine block about 300 feet. Yeah, there was no explosive or anything involved, which is exactly why, against the family's wishes, the body was cremated within hours before a proper autopsy could be performed. Very, very mysterious how these things kept happening under the Obama admin. What about Fast and Furious? What about the AP spying scandal? You remember that time that Obama weaponized the DOJ to spy on several AP journalists who were too critical of him? You remember when that happened? These things never got big coverage in the news. Fast and Furious was fast and furiously covered up. Oh yeah, the federal government gave automatic weapons to the Sinaloa cartel, and oh shit, they used one of them to assassinate a border agent. Whoops, we weren't supposed to have that happen. We thought these cartel members were going to use these guns for peaceful purposes. Just to fight other cartels. They'll never do anything else. The worst part is Sinaloa wasn't even the fucking worst of them. There's a reason that the feds were working with them instead of... I can't even remember the name of half the other groups. Some of them were worse than Sinaloa. The federal government chose the good cartel. Yeah, they don't hang people over overpasses quite as often. Only 50% the same death rate as all of the others. What about when the government was giving lethal aid to the FSA, to Islamo-fascist terrorists over in Syria? Oh, but they're not ISIS, so it's okay. The enemy of my enemy is still my fucking enemy in this case, but it totally makes sense, dude. The Obama era was riddled with this sort of corruption and nonsense. Didn't really happen under Trump. It's very, very funny because supposedly he was, Orange Man bad, fascism, authoritarian, he wants to destroy America, he's probably run by the Russians and stuff, and yet he didn't have an AP spying scandal. Trump got called anti-First Amendment if he made a mean tweet at somebody. Obama was spying on journalists, having investigative individuals killed, like Michael Hastings. Don't try to lie and tell me that was an accidental death, because literally nothing about that fucking case adds up. So you're going to see more of this. I wouldn't be surprised if you have prosecution and persecution of numerous dissidents under Beijing Biden. Happened before. I wouldn't be surprised if federal agencies are weaponized against members of the press that are critical of the administration. And by the way, right now they might all be bobbleheads with happy smiley faces on. At some point, some individuals within these reporting groups will attempt to do actual journalism. The first response will be that Biden will send an angry letter to the head of CNN or MSNBC saying, fire this fucker. And if they ever get to the point where they're like, oh my god, the attrition is so high, we can't even fucking report anything, and then they decide to go against Biden's wishes, well, you got audited by the IRS. Yeah. The feds raided you and seized all of your shit. They rummaged through your house and destroyed everything. Now, not looking for anything in particular, but you have a FISA court. Keep in mind that the federal government at the executive level essentially has a rubber-stamped fake court, an ersatz court. on its team to be able to do whatever the buttfuck it wants and get a warrant to search and fuck you in the ass. This is what happened with the Russia investigation. They don't even need evidence. The rubber stamping process, over 99% of sought warrants for search and seizure are granted by the FISA court. Over 99%. Rosenstein testified under oath, the deputy head there of the DOJ, FBI, whichever, testified under oath that he didn't even remember reading it before he signed it. Keep in mind that this is the legal process that protects you from Biden persecuting you if you're a notable figure. Now, you have to worry, you get like, oh my God, I made a tweet that I didn't like Joe Biden 5 months ago. Okay, nobody cares. But if you're Nick Fuentes, or apparently Giuliani, if you have a big audience, if you have a lot of power and some money or whatever, yeah, you're a target right now. You were under Obama too. It's just that most of you weren't aware of that fact. But these days, the independent media is a bit more robust. See, there are more people that know about the shit that's going on, despite the fact that the MSM does less and less actual journalism. Basically, at this point, the legacy media doesn't even report news. All it does is analysis. They've all been completely corrupted. Trump sold them heroin and it destroyed them. The independent media is all that's left. You'll see more of us persecuted. It'll happen. Trust me, it'll happen. If Nick Fuentes on the fucking no-flies, if they're got brass balls brazen enough to go after fucking Rudy Giuliani after already persecuting the fucker for years, they're throwing off all decorum at that point. They no longer give a fuck about the law because they're the ones that make them. And it's funny that all of the liberal lemmings that would be absolutely, there'd be like little mushroom clouds would be coming out of their ears if anything akin to this had happened under the Trump admin. Under the Trump admin, he could make a tweet and get called a dictator. He could make a tweet and get called Adolf Hitler's less intelligent spawn. Beijing Biden can weaponize entire federal agencies to take a shit and a piss upon, and I know this is cringe and it's not meaningful, but America's mayor, and convince people he's controlled by the fucking goddamn Russians. And he's done it effortlessly because of the MSM's complicity and complacency. They don't even give a shit. And when they do, it's okay. If you can fire a couple of people in the newsroom, we can make a point. Yeah, somebody woke up with a severed horse's head on their bed. We can make a point. Who's going to investigate it? Is there anyone in Congress with the power and the capability and the will to do that? Is there anyone in the media willing to investigate? No. You got Tim Pool and Nick Fuentes and stuff like that. Now, why do you think that they're being targeted? That's about all. Peace out.